I love the senator. Do you think he's been fumbling the ball a little bit this go around? Like,
I think he's gotten better this go around.
I know they asked him about reparations, and he was like...
Well, actually, a week ago, he came out and he said if elected president, he would support H.R. 40. Well, what's H.R. 40?
It's just the research of it.
Ta-Nehisi Coates turned me on to H.R. 40, though. So John Conyers was in Congress for 30, 40 years, since 89 had been trying to pass that bill. Just to research, it's 30 years at this point. Sanders, he takes the question, jostles it a little bit, but all of a sudden, that hashtag goes from having 27 hits online to all of a sudden 2,700 hits online. I would argue if you didn't have a lightning rod like Sanders, who's willing to hear the question, I think that the conversation has evolved forward. Yes. I think without Bernie Sanders in the race, that conversation never would have evolved.
Just the conversation about reparations in general?
Yeah, okay. I don't think it would have evolved because I don't think any other candidate would have taken it. Because when you ask me about reparations, I have my idea what reparations are.
Okay.
And I'm sure someone else has some reparations, but just as a people, I'll tell the secret, we ain't had our black people meeting to see what we asking for yet.
Nah.
And the only two people who have honestly given us a good map for what we should ask for are not even involved in the conversation. One of those people is the Honorable Marcus Garvey and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And of all the black people that are running around screaming about reparations, when I say, well, what should we ask for? Dr. King, we know in his last 2-3 years of life, started asking for land. Land grants, land lotteries, land. What Muslims want is a document that Elijah Muhammad put forth to let you know exactly what people who the American descendants of slaves should be asking for in payment for what we had. If we're not discussing those things and we're simply saying, what do you have for us, then that's just like asking for welfare.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So I'm not criticizing the movement because I want the movement to prevail. If you're an American descendant of a slave, I want some type of reparations to be paid, given, or acclimated to you. But before we get to that part, what are we asking for?
People got mad at Senator Sanders, but he honestly just asked the question. He was like, what is the reparations? You know what I'm saying? And he wouldn't say yes to something he doesn't even know what it is people want.
My mom said, no, when you ask for something, know what you're asking for.
Absolutely.
See, what if this man says, yeah, okay, I'll give you, what do you want? And you say, well, I want $2 million. Okay, well, here's $2 million. Well, what if it turns out what you really were worth was $20 million?
Yeah.
Now you've taken $2 million, you lived your wildest fantasies, you've had the most fun year of your life, and trust me, I'm a rapper, it's easy to spend $2 million in a year. The government's gonna tax you $800,000, then you're down to 1.2. You're gonna get the nicest house you can find. If you're in the South, you can probably get a nice one for $600,000. So you got $600,000 left. And then you have the rest of your life to figure that out. You're probably gonna buy a Lamborghini Jeep.
Something dumb.
Yeah.
Big ass chain.
You get what I'm saying? So we gotta start asking ourselves, okay, what can we learn from other groups? Now, what I would have asked, I would say, if Georgia's 35% African-American, then I would want 35% of the marijuana business from hence going forth to be African-American. That means in terms of land ownership, growth, and development. I would like for some type of land lottery to be given. I've had to do a lot of research on this too, because, you get your nuts checked, you go read.
Yeah.
Frederick Douglass never thought the United States should have to give reparations. Frederick Douglass, who was the most photographed person in the 19th century, the Barack Obama of his time, thought that only the people who own slaves should be responsible for. See, I disagree with that. But he was an actual slave.
Wow.
So who am I going to argue with an actual slave? But see, for me, if the government allowed it, the government should acclimate something.
Yeah, because everybody reaped the benefits of it that was white.
What I would like to do as a black community is for us to start holding some Sunday meetings that are not online, that are not on live, and let's start talking what we want and what we deserve. Because 54% of all African Americans live in the South. The South is still great in terms of land ownership. We could own that part of the country. Essentially, I want black people to think of yourself as Mormon in the South as Utah. I want you to start thinking, what could we do from a power-based perspective there? And then let's put it in.
Can we legalize polygamy there, like in Utah too?
I would like to. My wife ain't with it though. I actually slapped me. But for me, I would like to know what are we asking for. And I think that what we ask for starts with what Muslims want by Elijah Muhammad. It starts with the study of the Honorable Marcus Garvey.
And you're right about the Senator Sanders thing, too. The Wall Street Journal did a study where they said that the most reparations has been mentioned was when Ta-Nehisi Coates did that article for The Atlantic.
Yeah.
And then when I asked Kamala Harris about it on The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
And it was like that was the start of the conversation happening. Because it went
I don't
from
think
her
that was
to
a fair
Bernie.
question for her. I mean, not saying not in defense of her, just saying she's not an American descendant of a slave.
Yeah.
She's of Jamaican descent.
But you mentioned Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was Jamaican.
Yeah, I know he was. I didn't say he wasn't. But he came with a plan.
Okay.
His plan was a Pan-Africanist one. His plan would have not only held America to accord, it would have held Jamaica and Britain to accord, it would have held France with Haiti to accord. So yeah, he was like a master thinker, a master teacher.
If you're not ADOS, you can talk about it if you have a plan. Basically.
Yeah. I'm not saying no one else deserves to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just in matters of how it's really going down, what do you think about it? You probably want to ask someone who's a descendant of it because they're going to view it differently.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? Your great-grandparents actually toiled the land in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You have a right to the Geechee and Gullah Islands that a black person who's from Louisiana may not have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because that land was toiled there by your people.
And I'm 97% West African. You know what I'm saying? I did my DNA test.